All right, so at the end of this class, hopefully you'll get some 3D modeling tips in surface solid modeling, plotting solid models, and wireframe modeling. All right, so I love PowerPoint. I'm sure like you guys do, so I'm going to do about 75 slides of PowerPoint here. I don't see anybody getting very happy, so this is basically kind of it. I'll show this one little slide and I'll probably be kind of done. I like to obviously just work in the software. So basically, as far as, I'm just going to go through kind of a list. I hopefully do, at least it's something in some sort of order. Kind of talking about, first I want to talk about commands and the interface and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I do find a lot of people kind of gotchas or things that can help them. So the first thing I want to talk about is the commands, because a lot of people still actually don't know how to get to the commands. So first of all, I'm just in regular AutoCAD. That's the first thing to tell you. Within just the regular drafting annotation, you can actually get to the 3D tools for the most part of what you want. You simply right-click on the ribbon, just go to Show Tabs, and there are two tabs here, 3D Tools, and if you want to do any visualization, you'll have that. And if you look here, it's good enough for basic kind of 3D modeling and so on, okay? But of course, if you want the full extent, just go to what's called the Workspace in the bottom here, and you have 3D modeling, 3D basics and 3D modeling. I'm obviously going to go to the 3D modeling one. One little tip I like to show here, a lot of people don't realize kind of this setting is as you make changes to your workspace, so for those of you that don't know what a workspace is, it's a stored configuration of interface components, where your ribbon is, your toolbars, if you have any, if you're still using those, the palettes and so on. But as you make changes to your workspace, a lot of people, I always get this, is how come it goes back to this original spot? Well, if you go down here and you go to Workspace Settings, make sure you have automatically save workspace changes turned on. All right. Another tip, always create your own workspace. Just do a save as, because if it ever goes corrupt and it blows up, you don't have to reinstall AutoCAD. So it's always nice to have that. That way you can always go back to the default one. All right. So again, these are all the commands. As you can see here, the tabs change. You get home, solid, surface, mesh, etc. And of course, you still have the basic AutoCAD stuff there as well. All right. So that's just kind of going over the access and the commands. As far as viewing tips, so I get this asked a lot, is because I think everyone, especially if you're going from 2D to 3D, they have this fear, oh my gosh, how am I going to see things or do things? And I always just say, our comfy spot as drafters is what? It's top view, basically. So if you look up here, there's this thing called the view cube. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it really lets you know where you are in the world of 3D. So this is our comfy spot, right? Because we're all used to just 2D drafting. And if you ever are messing around to kind of rotate your view, you can actually click on the view cube here and move things around. Another little tip, Shift middle button will rotate your view as well. So Shift middle button, and that rotates your view. And what's nice is it doesn't constantly rotate like it used to. It actually will stop at the top and it'll stop at the bottom. All right? But I get this is like, I don't know where I am. Let's panic mode, kind of undo forever. Don't panic. Just basically look at your view cube. This will tell you where you are in the world of your 3D, and then you can just click on the different parts of it to get back to your comfy spot or whatever. Okay. One of the other things too with viewing is viewports. So in 2016 they did a really great job. They finally made viewports really configurable. Okay. So if you click over here on the upper left part, these are called the viewport controls. All right. So if you click on this, you can actually get a configuration of viewports. Let's just start out with two vertical here. And each viewport is obviously it's not two drawings, and it's not like paper space viewports. It's just for viewing your drawing at different orientations. So if I click in here, I can do a shift middle click. And each viewport has its own unique set of settings, not everything, but certain things. For instance, this here is called actually not that one. This one here is called the visual styles. And this allows you to kind of see it, let's say if I wanted to just do 2D wireframe. Okay, so this one could be 2D wireframe. Notice how this one is still realistic. Okay, so you can change that however you want to. The other thing that each viewport can have is it can also have its own UCS. So you could be modeling on one plane on this one and modeling on another plane on this one. I'll get over UCS tips in a second. All right. One of the other really cool things, I don't know if you guys have seen these, but if you look right over here, you can't really see it probably from where you're sitting. It's kind of right there. If you click on this, it'll actually add a viewport. It's a little plus sign right in the middle there. So then you can do things like that. Notice how these are now, I don't know if this is draggable, that's probably not a word, but you get the idea. so you can drag these around. You couldn't do that before. There was a standard configuration that you could work with, okay? But this is pretty crucial. This is kind of how I like to work. In fact, I typically just do like 2 viewports. Because what it allows me to do is I can say, you know, this is my visual one where I'm seeing things designed, and then I'm kind of, you know, working in this one here and doing whatever other stuff I have to do within this one viewport here. Okay, so that's kind of a way that you want to be able to kind of work with it, all right? All right, let's talk about some UCS tips. So for those of you not familiar with what the UCS is User Coordinate System. The default one out of the box is called, not out of the box, but default one in AutoCAD is WCS, or World Coordinate System. All right? And you'll see already right off the bat here, I should probably change my background to white. That would probably be a little better, wouldn't it? Say yes if you agree. Yes. All right, so let's change that to white. Whoops, not magenta. That would really blind you. Okay, did I change the wrong one? Colors. Thought I changed it to white. Oh, there we go. Let's do that one. Okay, that's odd. Oh, was I changing the wrong one? I thought I changed my... But I'm in, let's see. Oh, I see, so it's up here. That's white, yeah. So I'll just change that to 2D wireframe there for now. But even so, I did parallel projection. That should also be white, but that's all right. All right. Actually, that's going to be a little hard. I can't do it that way because I want to show you guys something. Hopefully, you'll be able to see it here, but we'll just change this back here to wireframe. Oh, now it's working, so there we go. All right. Yeah, so whatever it was, a little hiccup there. You guys, AutoCAD never does that to you guys. It's just my machine, I know. All right, so as you can see here, so the UCS, you can basically put it anywhere, okay? I want to just show you some little tips to kind of getting it there. So as you can see in this one, in this viewport, it's actually on that plane of this little part. And over here by the grid, it's just flat at 0, 0. As you click here, you'll notice it actually will update. So that's a nice little workflow, okay? But it's something you have to be aware of at all times, because if you're not, then as you draft, it's going to obviously kind of mess things around. I apologize for this. Something's wrong with my Wi-Fi. It's not, it's acting funny. All right, so to kind of move the UCS around, like I said, it's very simple. You can now select it. You just basically hover over the UCS, you pick it, you get these grips, and you can move things around. You can move it around as you need to. Notice how if it's a 3D solid, it'll automatically find the face of that, okay? So you can do that. Notice how the grid, it's nice to have that grid. It shows you visually kind of where things are. Again, this also panics people. They go, oh my gosh, how do I get it back? I should exit, undo. Again, no panicking allowed. It's really not that hard. Just if you look over here, there's a little coordinate system drop down. You can just pick WCS and boom, you're back to normal. Okay, so it's really nothing that you have to be worried about. Now, when it comes to the UCS and moving it, you don't always have to move it. A lot of people, I see this all the time, they're constantly moving to a certain face or whatever to kind of design on that face. You don't need to do that. AutoCAD is very intelligent when it comes to working with the UCS. Anything you draw is a parallel projection of the UCS. So if I were to just simply, let's say I'm over here in this viewport here right now, my UCS is just WCS, but if I snap over here, it's a parallel projection of it, okay? You'll notice also you can save UCSs, so I'll just say on part. I have one here, okay? So now again, if I just draw a rectangle and I snap over here, you'll notice it actually is drawing it in that parallel projection of there. But as you snap, it puts it there. So again, the biggest thing is just change the rotation of the UCS. That's all you have to worry about. And as long as it's a parallel where you want it to be, you can snap, use O-tracking, which we'll talk about in a little bit here, basically to kind of get to the plane that you want to get to. As far as O-snaps goes, obviously in 3D, you know, O-tracking. Does everyone know what O-tracking is? Raise your hand if you know what O-tracking is. Okay, so that's a good amount. You'd be surprised there are still people who have no idea what O-tracking is. They still type at and go over and all that good stuff. All right, but basically with O-tracking works in 3D. So if I wanted to draw something, you know, let's say I want to draw a circle on this plane here, but I want it to be over by, actually let me just measure this here. I don't remember what my distance is. Would you please go away? This is about 20. So let's say I want to go over 5 and up 3. How would you do that? Some of you might say, well, I'll just draw a line this way 5, and I'll draw a line that way 3, and then I'll start my circle, and then erase my construction lines. You don't need to do that. So first, I'm on this plane. That's the first thing. I'll start the circle command. all right? Now, all I have to do is, I call this acquiring. So basically just acquire this point here, move to the right, as long as you have extension on. Actually, and before I do that, I have to do something else called a temporary track point. So I'll do a shift, do that again, shift right click, and I've been having a little hiccups with my shift right click for some reason. It seems to be acting a little slow. There we go. And you want to use what's called a temporary track point. You can also type TT, all right? So temporary track point, acquire, don't click, move to the right, type the distance you want. Let's say we'll do 3, enter. Now I've got, you can kind of see it. I'm not going to hover. If I do, it'll go away, but it's right over here. And if I hover this way, all right, now I'm tracking that way. So now I can just say go 3, press enter. It starts to circle over 2, up 3, no construction lines necessary. I find that people still don't really use temporary track points. And of course, I would just define the radius of what I want it to be, and then I could extrude it or whatever, okay? Again, I think that tracking works in any kind of, on any 3D plane or any 3D, again, parallel projection of the UCS, okay? All right. So again, with the UCS, just a little more, a few more things here. If you hover, if you want to rotate simply up to straight up here, you can just pick the Y, the circular grip here. Again, make sure you don't have any snaps. And as long as you have tracking turned on here or polar tracking turned on, you can basically just kind of lock that in to any of those angles that you want to, and it just locks them in, okay? Again, right-click on here, you'll also get a whole bunch of UCS-specific menus. If you're in Civil 3D, you don't get this, just so you know. And the verticals, for some reason, they don't leverage it. But you can still get them through the command called UCS. Just type UCS, okay? And of course, I want to go to the world. I would just pick world, and now I'm back there, okay? All right, let's talk about some editing tips here. All right, so I got a bunch of objects here. The first thing I want to talk about is the Gizmo. So for those of you not familiar with the Gizmo, as long as you're in a visual style that's like a shaded type style or render style, there is one exception to that. If you pick the wireframe one, this will also make the Gizmo appear, but it's wireframe, but it's like a 3D style still. If you're in the 2D wireframe like now, and if I pick an object, the Gizmo does not appear. Okay, so just make sure you're in some sort of shaded or 3D style, and if you do, you'll notice this object appears right here, okay? If it drives you nuts and you don't like it, you can turn the Gizmo off. You can just say no Gizmo right there. So in the Home tab, Selection panel, just pick no Gizmo, because sometimes people don't like that turned on, all right? I'll go ahead and just change this back to realistic here, or shaded. All right, so the thing about the Gizmo, it's great, because what it allows you to do is it puts this Gizmo, so you can do, there are 3 options. You can actually, if you right-click on it, you can do move, rotate, or scale, okay? And as they each, I'll go over each one in a second here. They obviously are pretty simple, straightforward. But the problem with the Gizmo is that when you pick an object, it automatically goes to the center of whatever object you have selected. So what you can do to move that, there are a couple of things. First off, you can hover over this one here, or you can pick it and actually move it like so, okay? And again, like I said, so you can move this around. So let's say I wanted to move, so this cylinder here, or this cylinder part, is actually, it's probably worse as white with the background there, but we'll just go with it. Is actually, it's part of this solid. So I want to just move that object. So a little tip, if you're not familiar with this, if you hold the Control key down, you can pick sub-objects, all right? One of the other tips while I'm here is this really nice thing here called selection cycling. A lot of people have it turned off. I recommend you turn it on for most parts, but sometimes it does get in the way, but it's right over here. Okay, so it's just simply a toggle right there. So selection cycling is nice to have turned on because it allows you to kind of peruse through the, especially when you're with a lot of 3D solids, you want to be able to pick a specific one, okay? But like I said, sometimes you're going to turn it off because it does get in the way. But again, like I said, if I do a shift middle click here to rotate, you see it does go to the center. Now, if I want to move this thing along this plane, right, that plane, you could just pick this here, move it this way, or move it this way as well. And I can do those individually. But what you can also do, I'm just going to do that a couple times, is you can actually customize the Gizmo to a specific kind of UCS on the object, all right? So if I hold the Control key down, pick that again, all right? And just right-click over here and choose Custom Gizmo. And when you don't know what to do, where should you look? Command line window, exactly. So specify origin of Gizmo. So I'm going to just pick the center over there, and then it says specify point on X-axis. So again, I can just kind of snap perpendicular here, and then the XY plane, I'll snap perpendicular there, and now it's on that face. So now what I can do is I can just basically pick this over here, and if I want to move this over 5, up 5, 5, comma 5, press enter. I went the wrong way. It just moves. It basically just moves it that way. Okay, so that's a nice little feature there. Don't forget, you can always create a custom gizmo and control pick to pick the specific objects. All right, but it's not just limited to that. So for instance, let's say for this box. So this is again one 3D solid, but I want to actually move. Let's say I want to make this box bigger by a scale of 2. So again, hold the control key down and pick. Now it's the move gizmo. So just right click and then choose scale. And then I'll just basically pick any one of these axes here and just type 2, enter, and now it's a bigger box. I didn't have to redraw the box, reunion it, etc. Okay, so that's also, again, very useful. All right, let's go ahead and look at this one here. Again, pretty straightforward. I got this bookcase. It came in as a part like that, but I want to actually rotate it to the actual wall. All right, so again, select. Scale was the last one I used, so I'll just right-click on that one and choose rotate. Now, I can simply hover here. Notice how it goes right to it. I didn't have to pick. Now, I always get these confused like crazy, but I'm going to pick, I think the blue one is the one I want. And no, it isn't. I always get the wrong one first. All right, so let's just pick this here. There we go. And so notice how this is pretty straightforward because it's perpendicular. It's 90 degrees. So I'll just pick that, and then I'll just snap there. That's straightforward. But what if you get something like this, where I've got this door and I even have this doorknobs, or these doorknobs here, and I want to rotate that to show it closed. So let's go ahead and select these 3. All right. Little tip there too. I don't know if you noticed that. A lot of people don't realize you can do that. If you select specific entities, and let's say I only wanted to see just those objects, if you do a shift middle click, it isolates those objects. Okay, so it just shows those. All right. All right. So first off, let's just change the origin to here because that's where I want to rotate. But notice how it's kind of, if I start rotating this, it's going to actually be, you know, it's actually, I can't really get to the actual angle that I want to close it. So again, don't forget, just right-click on here and choose Custom Gizmo. And what's the origin? The origin is going to be that right there. Then what's my x-axis? Well, it's going to be basically the edge of the door here. So think of this, for the regular rotate command, it has the reference option. That's what you're basically doing here, is just picking that kind of functionality here. And then, of course, my XY plane will be the top of this door here. All right. And then I want to pick this one here, and that will then allow me to close that door. Okay. And again, if you press Escape and select it again, it goes back to the default kind of UCS of just regular. Okay. So just some editing tips there. Again, it's not limited to just those. So if, let's say, I needed to make the face of this whole entity, this solid, bigger by 5 millimeters, okay? So Control, and then I'll pick. And this is where sometimes having the selection cycling off actually will help you a little bit. Notice how it automatically goes to the center, but I wanted to get that face. So let me first change this to move, and I'll just hold the Control key down again and pick again. A lot of people say, oh, it's not working, I have to explode it, redo it. No, just Control pick twice, and that will allow you to kind of bring it in there. I can then, of course, I can pick this face as well. And then we can just kind of go in here, and we can move it by 5, just using dynamic input, okay? Now, sometimes, and I didn't show you this, but if I tried to pick this object here, which was unioned, it would not do it. It would just move the whole thing because they were separate entities. So sometimes you have to pick it separately. So I'll just pick here, pick there, and of course just pick here. Actually, let me back up. I wanted to show you this too. So if you hover over these, and I think they added this in 12 or 13, I can't remember which one, extend adjacent faces, move face, allow triangulation. I want to pick this. I don't have to type a distance. I can simply snap, and now nothing's changed. It just extended it that way. And I would do the other side, but you get the idea. Okay? So, AutoCAD does have the editing tools that you need for, editing specific parts and so on of it. This one here is really, I love this feature. A lot of people don't. It's been around forever, but not many people use it. Let's say I wanted to draw, I don't know, some sort of box. I'll start the box command here. I want to draw it from this corner here, but it needs this elevation on this, from this part here. So how would you do that? Well, of course, you could just measure it, or you could use O-tracking. Sure, you could. But instead, you can use something called point filters. A lot of people, they don't even notice it's there. So if you go to point filters, this .x, .y, .z, .xy, .xz, what it's going to do, if I pick, let's say, all I want is the height, I'll just pick .z. it will basically just grab that elevation without me having to figure it out and then apply it to my XY. If I do a dot X and then I pick the other point, it'll put the X there and allow me to modify the Y and the Z, okay? Obviously this is a 2D, actually, well, I am drawing a box, I thought I did rectangle. So I'll just go ahead and snap here, and then I'll snap to the top of this building. It does not matter. It grabbed that elevation automatically. So these point filters are awesome. They really help you kind of grab something from somewhere else in the drawing that allow you to kind of then of course manipulate. So let's just, I'll do like 100, 100 here, and whatever for a height. All right, and so there we go. As you can see, it came from the top and I went down basically. All right. So again, you can use those point filters to grab different parts or from the different parts of your design. All right. All right. Let's look at Boolean operations here. All right, so this one here is, I like this as a cool little example. So this is obviously a 2D, I mean, it's a very simple one. So, I mean, when you see this example, you can use it for some things, but other things you might have to just start from scratch. But let's say right here I've got the top, front, side view, or et cetera, of this part here. So to make this a 3D solid is actually not that hard. So the first thing I'll do is I will pull this first up here. Now I don't know the distance, so I'll just use O tracking. I'll snap here, acquire, and the distance is 3 units, okay? So you could use press pull right here, or Control Shift E, and you just simply Control Shift E, and you hover over and then click, and it automatically press pulls. Control Shift E. It used to be Alt in like 2009, and then all of a sudden, like one version, they just took it away. We're like, where's Alt? And then they made it Control Shift E. I don't know why, but whatever. So I'll just type 3, enter, and there's my height. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to basically extrude this side view through it to basically get it so I can make this one, one solid. So I'll just pick here. I'm going to use grip editing. Right-click move, right-click copy, and I'll just snap this over here. All right, now I need to rotate this. So I'm going to change my view style, my visual style, to wireframe. So that way the gizmo will work. I'll hover. It goes over there, but of course, whoops, let me zoom in a little more because I hovered over a midpoint. Hover here, right-click, rotate. And the one that I want, I believe, is this one here. There we go. I'll simply snap there. Very easy, right? Just kind of just line it right up. Now I'll extrude this one. I don't have to press pull it because it's one closed entity. And I'll simply snap there. Now, as far as Boolean operations go, they are actually in the solid tab here, under this big here, but the home tab pretty much contains everything you need. So they're right under solid editing. So you have union, which is fairly straightforward. That just combines stuff. Subtract, again, same thing. I might go over a subtraction option here in a minute. And then, of course, you have intersect. And this is a good example of using intersect, because what this will do, if I pick here, I'll just pick this solid here, this solid there, press enter, and just change my visual style to like conceptual, and there's the part. I mean, so as you can see, within a few seconds, I'm going to kill my Lenovo in a minute, that actually will make that 3D solid. Very nice, okay? It's time to wake up. Someone's alarm is going off. All right. All right, so let's look at another example here. And again, stop me if I'm going too fast, please, and just if you have any questions, just feel free to interrupt me. All right, so let's look here. If we look at this part that I have, this is actually a little table. All right. Now let's say I'm tasked, I have to draw a little rail along this here, and I also have to encase this in a 3D solid because it's going to be a closed table of some sort for a machine or whatever. Okay. So how do I do that? Well, first off, I want to do this rail. So So I know I'm going to have to kind of extrude this or sweep it, right? We kind of probably have all heard of those commands. So the first thing I would do is I want to draw like a circle to kind of get this going. So I'll just start the circle command. I'll snap here, but what's going on? So again, remember what I told you. It's drawing a parallel projection of the UCS, which is now at the WCS. So I do not have to move the UCS up here. I don't have to. There's no need. I can simply pick this, pick the y-axis, and just go straight up. Again, it's a parallel projection of the UCS. So I'll just start the circle command. Now my radius is going to be 5, so I'm going to acquire this point. Again, using O tracking, move to the left here, of course, not snapping. Oops, did I? Okay, so here's a little bug. Actually, not a bug, but well, I think it's a bug, but this is as designed. So notice how I acquire, and I'm trying to get the extension, but it keeps going away. What is going on? So for those of you not familiar, and I don't really like to show dynamic UCS the only time you'll ever use it is when you want to snap to the center of an object, in my opinion. But this one right here is called Dynamic UCS. It allows you to, as you hover over an entity, it'll actually rotate the UCS, you can draw on it. But it's kind of limited literally to the center because it gets rid of any O tracking. As you see, if I hover and I want to acquire this point, I'm trying, boom, it goes away. So I don't like it on, and I did that on purpose because I want to just let you guys be aware of that. So I turn that off. Let's acquire this, move this way. I'll type 5, enter, and my radius is 5. So there's the circle. Again, I didn't move, all I did was just change the y-axis. I didn't move it at all. Now I'll draw a line. We'll just go from the endpoint here, and we'll go to the intersection there. And now I will trim. Now, when you trim, trimming is definitely something you want to be aware of. If you're trimming stuff in 3D, you have to be on the right plane. When you go to trim, I'm going to use the All option. Here's a little AutoCAD tip. A lot of people don't even realize this is here. If you just press Enter right now, every object becomes a trimming object, okay, or cutting element. So if you look here, there's an option for Project. So if I click on that, you can change it to None, UCS, or View. If it's set to UCS, it uses the current UCS as a plane to kind of trim around, okay? So I'll just press Enter here. I wish you would just stay in the background. And then I'll just kind of hover over the circle here, and now that's trimmed, all right? I'll just do Join. I'll do a crossing window because it doesn't matter. It's not going to pick the solid. And then now this is actually a polyline, all right? Now, I need to extrude this along this edge here, or sweep it. So I could just draw a line, figure out that radius, draw a line, arc, line, and be done, right? Why do that? So there's a command right here, or there's a bunch of commands. They're called the solid editing commands. So if you hover over these, in fact, they're all, for the most part, they're all one command called solid edit. But this just isolates that specific command. I want to copy the edges from a 3D solid. So I'll pick that. Again, when you don't know what to do, look to the command line window. I'll pick the edge there. Pick that edge, that one there, that one, and then press Enter. What's my base point? So 0, 0, press Enter, 0, 0, press Enter. Notice how it goes right into the solid edit command. So I'm back in basically the different options within this command. Press Escape, and now I have, I'll turn selection cycling on for a minute here. Now I've got the lines and stuff underneath it. So I found a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a bug, but depending on how you join these, it might make a spline which might not sweep it the way you want it to. So I find sometimes doing it manually is actually the best bet. It will, like I said, make a spline depending on what objects you select here. So I'll just pick these manually here and pick this one here. And now I've got one polyline to sweep this across. So pretty straightforward now. Home tab, modeling panel. We go to the drop down here, pick sweep, simply pick. Press Enter, pick, done, all right? Pretty simple. Now, I could union those if I really want to, but I'm not going to bother, okay? Because I want to do something else with the body here that we're going to actually do. So right now, what I want to do is I want to encompass this whole thing inside a 3D solid. So I want to actually, again, I could trace this all out, grab that polyline, maybe edit some vertices, but again, why reinvent the wheel? So there's a command here called Copy Faces. Again, this is all the solid edit command. This command is really useful. A lot of people don't realize it's there, and I find people deleting stuff, or even like just figuring other ways to kind of get solids editable. All right. I'll click Copy Faces. I'll pick the top face here. Notice how it selects it here. I'll just pick anywhere in space, and I'll pick a base point. I'm just going to go straight down here. Oops. We do that again. All right, so copy face, pick, go straight down, and I wanted a distance, so I know a height of 38. All right, so there's a face. Now what it creates is a region, which is very extrudable. All I have to do now is simply extrude this, pick here, go straight up, type my value that I want this to be, all right? And now what I want to do is, now I want to shell this out, right? Because I want to actually I'll put a cover on a separate, because this is a true 3D solid, but I still want to keep this stuff inside, obviously. All right, so all I have to do here is go to this part here, and again, if you look here, this is still the solid edit command. That's all it is, but it's just going to pick the shell option. I'll pick the 3D solid, and then again, when you don't know what to do, look to the command line window. It says remove faces. Pick the top, and sometimes, like I said, selection cycling does get in the way, so I'm going to turn that off temporarily here. I'll go underneath, press enter. Now with the shell command, if you go positive, it goes in. If you go negative, it goes out. So I'll type negative 0.25, press enter, and now that is shelled on the outside by 0.25. All right, so you can see right there. And again, it went to the outside. If I type positive, it would have gone into the actual table, which is obviously not what I wanted. Okay? All right. Let's look at some other little tidbits here. All right, so let's say I've got this mug here, a 2D mug, and I want to make it a 3D solid now. So how do I do that? So this is, again, a good example of kind of converting these or whatever. So the first thing you want to do is I'll go ahead and just create a cylinder of this one here. All right, and of course I can grab, perpendicular, I can grab that very easily, but I don't remember the height. I forgot to measure it. What should I do? Well, again, when you don't know what to do, look to the command line window. 2 point. If I pick 2 point, I can snap, snap, and it grab the height. So those are really nice options there. All right, now I want to get the inside because I'm going to subtract out, obviously, the other part of the mug. So I'll just do the cylinder again here, and what I'm going to do first is I don't want to snap here because that's going to go to the bottom of the mug, right? So what I need to do is I need to actually get the actual thickness of it, which is 0.15. So what I'll do is I will simply use O tracking to do this. So I will acquire that point, which I already did. I'll type 0.15, press enter, and as you can see, it now starts at the thickness of that. All right, so again, I already have the 3D solid in here that I can snap to. So I'll just grab this here, and then for the height, whoops, did I pick the wrong one? I picked the wrong one. Let's do that again. But my shift middle click for some reason is a little slow. It's not crashing on me, is it? No. But that silly thing keeps coming up. Maybe it is crashing on me. Oh, there we go. All right. Let's try this again. So, cylinder. I will acquire this point here, go straight up. 0.15, press enter. And let's just make sure that we actually get this one here, the actual, and then we'll just grab the height of this. All right. Oh, actually, I grabbed the outside, didn't I? Yep, that's what I did. I didn't get the inside, because that's what we obviously want. Oh, actually, no, we're good. Yeah, so now I'll just subtract this out. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the subtract command here. So the way the subtract command works, if you're not familiar with it, is, let's make sure I still have both, I do, is you pick the one you want to keep first, press enter, and then you pick the one that you want to get rid of afterwards. And I made a mistake. That's okay. I'm not going to focus on it, but you get the idea, all right? I picked the wrong one in reverse. All right, so that's how you can kind of get that done. All right, but now let's look at this here first. So what I want to do now is I want to actually get the handle on there. So for this here, what you can use, we'll just keep that there like that. So at least I have this. So what I can do here is I can use the regular standard AutoCAD Align tool. So, all right, so I think it's in the Draw panel. Actually, it's in the Modify panel, I believe, and it's right here. I just type ALA. I'm a keyboard guy, okay? So just pick a line, and the way that this works is you first, again, look at the command line window. So you select the object, all right? Right-click when you're done, and you're basically defining source and destination points. So I'll simply snap this one here, and then I'll just do a mid between 2 points to kind of get this distance here, because I didn't grab the distance. Come on. I probably just could pick the quadrant of the circle, but we'll just do mid between 2 points. And I'll pick here to there. That's the first one. And then the next one here is going to be this one here. And then I'll just pick the quadrant of that. And then I'll press enter. You can keep going, but I'll just press enter. And it says scale the object. Because the size is a little bit different, I'll say no. I actually want to just keep it that way. And automatically, it puts it on there. Okay? Now, I want to obviously sweep a circle, right, to get the handle on there. So I'll just draw a circle here. And I can just already use the handle. I'll just use what I have here to get the radius and everything. Okay? And we'll just go ahead and go to sweep. And I'll pick the object I want to sweep. Now, you can try this first and see what happens, and sometimes it'll work, but as you can see here, that didn't really work. Okay? So what you have to do, let me just undo that, is in the sweep command, there's an option when you press enter for the base point, basically the point about which to sweep it. So this, again, you'll have to kind of play around with this. I realize that this one here is the point that I want to sweep it. Oops, I forgot to pick the object. Let's do it again. We'll pick that. I'll pick base point, and I'll pick my object. And then now, of course, it sweeps it rather nicely across that, okay? So again, that's just, again, converting, another way to kind of convert to 2D to 3D, all right? Another tool that a lot of people don't realize is around is something called the 3D Align tool. All right, so what that allows you to do is it allows you to actually align in a plane of some sort, okay? And so, again, I'm a keyboard kind of guy, so I'll just type 3D Align. And again, just look to the command line window for the different prompts. So I'll select the object, press enter. My base point's going to be right here, all right? And then what's my second point? I want this to be my second point. And then you're defining basically like the plane that you want this to be. So I'll pick that. So then here you're just kind of mapping it. One, it's a little bit different than the align command. Two, and then straight up. Okay, so you can align in 3D. Okay, just using just different, the last option there, which would be the plane. All right. All right, how much time do we have? 12 minutes. All right, so let's look at lofting and shelling. Just some other kind of really quick and easy ways to do this here. Let me close some files just to free up some RAM here. All right, so I've got these circles here. These are pretty simple circles. All I did was I was in, I can do whatever view I want, right, as far as front view, top view, side view, etc. And all I did was I just drew these circles. So here's one here. It has a radius of 1.125. This one here, same exact thing, and then this one here is a radius of 0.875, okay? So as far as, getting this to, let's say I want this to be a casing of some sort or shell, whatever. So I can just go into here and go to loft, and we'll just go ahead and select the object here, pick these four, and as you do it, you'll notice obviously it's showing you what's going to be there, okay? Now, I can basically just press enter here, and when I do that, it gives me the option I can pick some additional guides or paths that I want this to follow. But instead, this is actually fine, but it shouldn't be smooth. It actually should just follow those angles. So make sure you click on settings. A lot of people don't realize that this is there. And right now it's doing smooth fit, just pick ruled, click OK, and now, very simply, with 4 circles, I'm able to get this solid here, okay? Now, of course, I want to shell this out, so I'll pick the shell command, pick my 3D solid, and then again, removing the faces that I want to remove here, press enter, and then whatever the distance should be, and then now that is shelled very quickly, just from 4 circles, all right? Very quick and easy. All right, let's talk about solid editing. And let me close a few files too. All right, so I already have these existing parts here. And the first one let's look at is, let's say I want to move this circle, so I want the circle to be bigger. So again, what a lot of people will do is they'll just, control pick, delete it, draw a cylinder, make it the size they want, and then subtract it out. And you don't have to do that, okay? Right down here, there's a ton, and I mean a ton, of basically solid editing tools for faces, for edges, or for whatever, okay? So if you look over here, I want to do what's called an offset face. So I'll pick offset face, again, look to the command line window, you select the face you want to offset, pick here, press enter, and then basically you define the distance that you want, and it will matter that you can do negative or positive. So in this case, I want to do a negative 1.5, press enter, and then it makes it, it offsets it, okay? Now, if you look here though, again, this is the solid edit command, you're still in it. Let's say I wanted to offset the outside one by 0.8. So all I have to do is just find that option right here. I don't have to pick it from the drop down again, just offset, pick that object, and then press enter, 0.8, press enter, and obviously it heals all the other parts of the solid. Okay, so again, the offset face tool, again, any one of these tools is a really useful tool. All right. For instance, let's say I wanted to rotate this hole. Again, I've had a lot of people, they'll just do a control pick, delete, draw another cylinder, extrude it down. You don't need to do that. All right, so right over here, if I go to this drop down here, I'll pick rotate face. I'll pick the face that I want to rotate, press enter, And then you look at the command line window. There's a whole bunch of options. You can do it by view, by the x-axis, the y-axis. In this case, if I look at my UCS, I want to rotate about the z-axis. And I want to rotate it 90 degrees. So I'll pick z-axis. I'll pick my origin. Notice how 0, 0, 0 is the default. If you press enter, that's where it's going to go. But that's not where I want to be. I wanted to find the origin as the center right here. And I'll just type the angle of 90, press enter, and it just, again, heals the face, and it puts it right there. Okay, so again, you don't have to go in and do these kinds of edits and so on. All right. Let's look at this option right here. Let's say I wanted to actually, I want to change this. I actually, the designer comes back and they say, let me change that color just to be a little bit brighter. That's better. Let's say that, we look at this and realize, okay, we needed to offset this by 0.75 actually. So a lot of people will just redraw another circle and then subtract it out. And you could do that. But there's no reason to actually do that. What I can do here is, again, remember that copy, not edge. I want to do the copy face tool. So I'll just copy the face. I'll pick this face, press enter, and I'll pick the base point from the midpoint down there. I'll use tracking. We'll type 0.75, press enter. And now I've got this surface copied down here. So if it's a flat, remember how the other one was a region? Because it was flat. This is curved, so it can't do a region. A region is a 2D surface, if you want to call it that. All right? So I've got this here, and now what I can do is I can slice this. All right? So if I go ahead and pick on the slice command here, again, just follow the prompts. I'll select the object to slice, which is that 3D solid, press enter, and then you have a whole bunch of options. You could, of course, define a plane that you want to slice it, but in this case, I want to pick the surface. So I'll pick that surface, and then notice how it says select sliced object to keep. Well, I want to pick this one, or if I just press enter, it keeps both sides. So I'll just pick this one. Now that's gone, and this is still here. So there's a variable I want to point out. You guys may or may not be aware of it. It's called del obj. All right? And there are a whole bunch of settings for this variable. In fact, actually I'm not online, that's right. So I think I put it in the handout. It's like 6 settings. You have 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. What they are is 0 basically will keep all objects that are used to create a profile or a 3D solid from a profile or from a surface or something like that. 1 will get rid of certain parts of it. 2, I forgot, I don't remember by heart, but 2 gets rid of like extrusions and sweeping and so on. So you can choose which option, but del obj is what controls all that. So that's why this is still here. If I set it to 1, I think it would get rid of the object, okay? So just remember that variable called del obj, all right? All right, let's look at another little kind of tip here. Any questions so far? I know it's after lunch, but I get it. All right, so let's look at this completed drawing here that I have. So first off, I've got this really nice rendered. I got some trees here with this cool looking pond. I even have this building here. All right, so how do I do this? Did I create a whole bunch of little tiny cylinders and just copy them and then copy the blocks up? I could have. But if you look here, this is all kind of one entity, and it's not one, it's actually 2, but it's not a block. All right, so and you can tell by the name of the file, it's obviously an array. All right, so I've already hinted at what I'm going to do here. All right, so let's go ahead and let's do that from scratch here so we can see how we did this. All right, so the first thing is I want to, the array is right over here, rectangular, path, and polar. I'll just do rectangular and path. Those are kind of the most interesting. Polar is pretty straightforward. So let's just pick path. So the first thing you do is you pick the object that you want to sweep along this path. Not sweep, but just kind of have it follow this path. So this is a 3D tree, and then I'll press enter. What's your path curve? Pick that one. Boom, you're kind of done. All you then do is you basically just, you tell it whether to be measured a certain distance, or it can divide the actual entity, all right? So if I just go ahead and pick over here, let's say I want it to be 20 feet. Instead, sometimes you have to move inside here to kind of make it update. If I do 25 feet, all right, so did I do that? Right. Oh, I got to pick the wrong one, sorry, 25 feet. All right, so notice how to adjust that. But what you can also do, if you do the levels here, actually the rows, I'm sorry, you can actually, if you want to, do this, it actually will extrude, it pushes them out. Now, in this scenario, obviously that's not what I want to do. All right, but just some little tips here, and this is not 3D, this is 2D. This line, or this polyline, is constrained. So not only will, if I move the path, it moves everything with it. You don't have to worry, that's the one I copied. But if I change this, because it's constrained nicely, it automatically adjusts everything. So those are 2D constraints, 2D AutoCAD constraints. And that I'm sure they're, well, it's the last day, but there were classes on 2D constraints. So that's a really nice option, okay? So let's look at the building side of things. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw just a simple box. I'll just start out in space here. And this is, I got my little cheat sheet, 200 foot, comma, 150 feet. And then for the height, it's going to be 1 foot. So here's my first foundation, okay? Now, I want to draw the cylinders, and I'll change my layer, right? Everyone knows about changing layers, I hope, by now. And I want to, this is supposed to be at a 10 foot by 10 foot. It's supposed to be in 10 feet and up 10 feet. So again, using that O tracking trick there, I'll just type in TT for temporary track point, acquire, don't click, move to the right, type 10 feet, press enter. There's your temporary track point. Using polar tracking, I'll go this way, 10 feet, enter. No construction lines needed, all right? A lot of people, again, would draw a line and then offset it or whatever. So for the radius here, this is 1 foot, height of 8 foot, I believe, yes. All right, so I've got the one in there. Now for this one, I'm going to just pick a rectangular array, right? So I'll just pick this one here, press enter. It gives you some default settings. Again, all you have to do in here is simply tell it what you want it to be. So this is supposed to be 10 feet, or I'm sorry, 10 columns, and the distance between them is 20 feet. As you can see here, it's updating. Like I said, sometimes you have to move your cursor into the view for it to actually work. So this will be 7. And the distance I want between these is 22 feet. Whoops. 22 feet. Did I pick the wrong one? No. 7, 22 feet. 22 feet. Enter. There we go. That was weird. All right, so now I've got that. Now here's a really cool thing. So with levels in this case, if I do a levels of 3, I get the height. So I don't have to redo stuff. And then, of course, for the distance I want between here, it should be 9 feet. And now I've got that. Again, pretty simple, and I'm done, basically. The only thing I have to do now is the floor. So this, I could copy that, sure, but why copy it? What if my boss says, hey, we now need 5 floors, or 6 floors, or whatever? So same thing, I'll just do a rectangular array, I'll pick it, press enter. It does do these default ones, but I don't need them, so it's just 1 column, and it's 1 row, and it's 4 levels at a height of, where did I put it? 9 feet. All right, and now I'm basically done. Pretty simple, straightforward, and of course, any other solid modeling stuff, the walls or whatever you could do with other methods. But again, the array stuff is really, I mean, I saw a demo of a stadium. Someone did a whole stadium of just 3D arrays, and it was really, it was involved, but it was pretty darn cool. All right, we got 10 minutes left here. All right, so I'm not going to get into great detail with wireframe modeling. Actually, I should have actually let you guess first, but I should name the file house. So this looks pretty cool, right? This house is done. And I always tell people, so this is actually, there's not one 3D solid this entire drawing. This is all just regular 2D lines. I know you don't believe me, probably, right? Because it's all shaded, looks cool, right? It's even got the hatching on there. That's actually hatching, all right? And it's even dimension. This is all in model space. So I'm not going to, I don't have time to go over like the little tips and stuff here, but let me just show you what I did basically with this one. And I always tell people, if it gets the job done and you're more comfortable doing that, well, it's always, because in AutoCAD we don't have Inventor or Civil 3D. We don't have analysis, and it's just basically get a pretty picture, and you can do some analysis, but it's really basic. So the whole point is, if it looks good when you plot, then you're basically done. Why, there's no reason to do whatever you have to do, okay? So these are just lines. If I hover over this, it's a line. But what it has is it has something called a thickness. So you can just give any object, any 2D object, I'll just draw a circle here like this. Notice how my default thickness is already set. So let me change the color a little bit here just to be a little darker. All right, and this is just a thickness. Now, of course, if you render this, I'll give it a visual style here, it actually does render, okay? So it actually does treat it like a surface. And you can actually apply materials to the actual object. And it'll actually apply the material to the thickness or the height of it. So that's all that I did here. I literally just drew a house. And to draw the roof and everything else, I just kind of changed my UCS here, drew a hexagon. Then I basically just snapped lines, literally, and then I hatched, when I changed my UCS to here, hatched here. Changed my UCS here, hatched here. That's all that you do. You just change your plane, and this didn't take me long. It probably took me 25 minutes. Could it have been faster with 3D solids? Maybe. But again, this looks pretty darn good. My boss would have been happy to see just that, okay? All right. So that's kind of, again, I did do some other extra tips in the handout, I believe, for wireframe modeling and stuff, if you want to do it that way, or you can just look at those. All right, so let's finish with plotting, and then we'll have question and answers if you guys have any questions. All right, so plotting in AutoCAD now with 3D models is absolutely unbelievably easy. All right, the first thing I want to mention is in the Insert tab here. You can, if you're not aware of this, you can basically now import any file format that you can think of, any 3D file format. You can import JT files, STP files, SAT files, you name it. You can basically import any 3D solid. So if, let's say, you just need to plot something to show your, to just put in a set of plans, you can just insert any 3D model. You can download from a website. I've done this many times. I forgot the name of the website. I think it's CAD Bench. I can't remember the name of it, or 3D CAD something or other. And I think that's where I got this part from. All right. So this part here, if we look over here, is obviously a 3D solid. All right. And then to plot this, all right, so if you have nothing in the drawing, you can actually now plot inventor files, all right? You basically just find the IPT file or the assembly file, and you can just plot them in model space. It actually will read the inventor files, okay? But I obviously have something in model space, so if I go to my sheet here, I'll simply go to the Layout tab here. And then what you want to do is you want to start with something called a base drawing, or a base view. So notice how it says from inventor or from model space. All right, so I'll pick from model space, and immediately it just basically grabs whatever 3D solids you have in there, okay? Now, if you have different spots of 3D solids or different solids, you can actually go into model space and choose which one. In the old version of 2013 and below, it was everything. So you couldn't pick, which it's very nice now you can actually choose. So I want to start with the top view. So a lot of people just start picking. Don't pick. You want to go into here and make sure you pick the view you want to start with. So I want to start with the top view. I'll pick that, and then I'll press Enter. Again, look at your ribbon. It's becoming contextually sensitive. Now, if you look over here, as you're going through it, it's projecting the solid in that view. So this will be the front view. I'll pick that one. And then I'll press Enter because I'm done. Because what I want to now do is I want to project from this view. I want to get the side view from here, not from this one. So I'll pick this. This becomes contextual. And then you can click on Edit here. Actually, I'm sorry, it's before that one. If you click Projected, then what you can do is it automatically projects it from that view there. So I'll pick this one here. And let's say maybe I want to do an isometric view of, and just so you know, you can put these anywhere you want. It doesn't really, go away. It doesn't really matter. Come on. Well, it's like taking over my machine now or something. Oh, no, actually AutoCAD's doing it. Well, I almost went the whole presentation without crashing. 5 minutes to go. Oh, well, what are you going to do? I still have faith, please. See, all right, it didn't crash. Fantastic. All right, so again, you can pick whichever kind of, let's say I want to, for whatever reason, you want to grab like this orientation here. You could pick that, and then because it's an isometric view, you can move it out kind of over here, okay? Now, each of these views has the ability to have its own shading. So if I want to show this shaded with hidden edges, you can do that one. What's new, and I think 13 they added this one, you can basically now do a detail view or a section of a section, okay? So I can actually, let's say I want to pick this one here. Let me move this around first. I'll move this over. Notice how if I move this one, it's locked to that view. You can unlock it. You can say, hey, I want to be my own entity, but we'll just keep it that way. So if you look over here, I'll do a full section, and then I will acquire, my O snap off? Oh, there we go. Acquire this point here. I'll click here, go straight down, click, and then as you move around, it'll automatically section it left side or the right side, and then you can just pick that, and it'll hatch that side. So you can literally cut a section of a section. So if I want to do one this way, I would just pick here. Oops, let me do that again. I'll do section, full, acquire, go that way, that way, and then of course I could overwrite that one, I'm not gonna, but you get the idea, all right? So you can basically do that there. If I want to blow one up, let's say I want to detail this area, I'll pick this one, not the hatching, pick this one here, and I'll go ahead and click on detail, and let's say you want to do a circular detail. So here you just basically define that circle that you want to detail up, and you pick up here, press enter, notice how it automatically gets that. Again, really cool, it's automating a ton of stuff now. And you can edit these hatchings, you just pick it, and then the hatch editor comes up. Another little tip that people don't realize, a lot of people say, well, the color and the line type's not really what I want, but I guess I'll deal with it. You don't have to deal with it. Because if you look here, Model Documentation, that's what it stands for, MD. It adds these layers for you, and you can go in here and just change the color to whatever color you want it to be, okay? And then that should update. See, it's updating. It should update. Anyway, or you can just pick it. That'll also work as well. Oh, did I not choose? I thought I changed it. Let's go into here, try that again. MD hatching. There we go. All right, so you can go in there and change those layer properties and so on. Okay, and so that's just kind of, again, plotting is so much easier now. The old days we had to cut sections and they would make blocks and these separate entities. It was really horrible, but it worked at least. Okay. All right, I went over that. I found an Angry Bird. I actually plotted it. It looked kind of cool. But there's an STP file out there of Angry Bird. There is. I don't know who did whatever. But I thought it was pretty cool. All right. Any questions? Yeah. Yes. Because Civil 3D is AutoCAD. So what you have to make sure. So what you want to make sure you do is start Civil 3D as AutoCAD. Because you won't get the contextual ribbons. Sometimes it's flaky. The Civil team didn't really because they just update the contextual ribbons for Civil. But if you go to drafting annotation, it should be there. But if it's not, then just go to as AutoCAD, and it'll all be there. All right, please fill out your surveys. Okay, you can get a free pass. Autodesk University. I have to show this, or I'll get fired. And basically, just go to autodeskuniversity.com. And there's my email. Thank you guys very much. And for free, I'll be here for the next 5 minutes.